Welcome, fellow seekers of mystery. Today I invite you to step into the shadowed corridors of a castle that holds not only history but dark secrets, Leap Castle. A place where even the night seems to whisper of tragedy and betrayal long forgotten. Prepare yourself, for this story will draw you into shadows where every step might uncover truths darker than you could imagine. Perched atop the silent hills of Ireland, Leap Castle rises with cracked stone walls and towering turrets, overlooking a valley shrouded in mist. Morning fog creeps across the courtyard, wrapping the fortress in a blanket of secrecy. It is here that our tale begins. James, a young writer fascinated by urban legends, sets his first foot through the rusted iron gate. His hands tremble, not only from the cold seeping into his bones, but from the rumors of the Oubliette, dungeon said to bear witness to torture and death. Every step inside feels heavier, as if the very stones beneath him resist his presence. In narrow corridors, shadows shift as if alive. The wind whispers through cracked windows, forming sounds that almost resemble cries or whispers of long-lost souls. James feels an unnatural chill crawling along his spine. Out of the corner of his eye, a fleeting flash of red dances across the wall like firelight, but when he turns, nothing is there. Descending the staircase into the underground chambers, the echo of his own footsteps feels alien, resonating with a rhythm that is not entirely his own. James wondered if the castle was truly empty, or if something in the shadows was quietly observing him. Each breath he drew felt heavier, as if the air itself carried the weight of centuries. The narrow stairway led him deeper into the bowels of Leap Castle, where daylight could not reach and the walls seemed to absorb every sound, every movement. The dungeon stretched before him like a labyrinth of darkness. Rusted chains clung to the stone, swinging slightly as though moved by invisible hands. Faint scratches marked the walls' patterns too deliberate to be random. James pressed forward, flashlight trembling in his grip. The air smelled of damp earth and old blood, a scent that seemed to pulse with a life of its own. Suddenly, a faint whisper echoed from a distant corner. Not words, just a sound, a sigh, a warning, or perhaps a plea. His heart hammered against his ribs as he followed the sound, each step sending vibrations through the cold stone floor. Shadows seemed to twist, forming shapes that mimicked human figures, only to vanish when he blinked. A narrow door appeared, partially hidden behind a collapsed section of wall. James hesitated, a shiver crawling down his spine. He could sense something waiting, something ancient and patient. Pushing it open, the room revealed rows of old relics, shattered bones, rusted implements of torture, and walls scratched with frantic marks, messages left by those long gone, or warnings for the living. Then he saw it, a small blood-red symbol etched into the floor, almost glowing under his flashlight. The whispers grew louder, circling him, as if guiding him toward a secret too terrible to imagine. And just as he reached out to touch the symbol, a chilling draft slammed the door shut behind him. Trapped, with whispers now all around, James realized he was no longer exploring history. History was exploring him. The whispers now surrounded him, echoing from every corner of the cramped chamber, rising and falling like waves of unseen voices. His flashlight flickered, throwing the shadows into frantic motion, as if the walls themselves were alive, breathing, shifting. The red symbol on the floor seemed to pulse under his gaze, a slow heartbeat that drew him closer despite the fear clutching at his chest. He knelt, tracing the edges with trembling fingers. The stone beneath felt unnervingly warm, almost like it had absorbed centuries of suffering and now remembered them all at once. Each line of the symbol whispered stories of betrayal, madness, and a bloodline cursed to linger within these walls. A sudden scraping sound made him freeze. Something or someone was moving in the darkness behind him. James turned, but there was nothing. Only the faint outline of the room, stretching endlessly, warped by the shadows. His pulse quickened as he realized the whispers were forming patterns now, Guiding him toward the far wall where an archway had gone unnoticed, the arch led to a hidden spiral staircase descending further into the unknown. Every step creaked, reverberating as if the castle itself was groaning and warning. At the bottom, the air grew colder, the darkness denser. Shapes seemed to shift at the edges of his vision, figures hunched over, just beyond clarity, disappearing when he tried to focus, and then he heard it, a single, deliberate heartbeat, slow and heavy, echoing from a chamber ahead. It was not his own. Something alive, or something that had once been alive, was waiting. A question clawed at his mind. Had the castle ever truly been abandoned, or had it been keeping its secrets alive all along? With a deep breath, James stepped forward, and the shadows seemed to tighten around him, eager to reveal what had been buried for centuries. James stepped cautiously forward, the cold stone floor beneath him slick with unseen moisture. The spiral staircase opened into a vast chamber, larger than he could have imagined, its vaulted ceiling disappearing into darkness. Faint, flickering lights danced along the walls, though there was no source, casting grotesque shadows that slithered like living things. The whispers grew louder here, swirling around him like a storm of voices. Some moaned in pain, others hissed warnings, and a few seemed to call his name with eerie familiarity. James felt the weight of countless eyes pressing down from the darkness, watching, judging, waiting. Every instinct screamed for him to turn back, but curiosity and a strange, inexorable pull kept him moving forward. At the center of the chamber stood an altar of black stone, streaked with what looked like dried blood. The red symbol from the dungeon floor reappeared here, larger, more intricate, carved into the altar itself. He realized with a shiver that the whispers were emanating from this place, as if the castle's very soul resided in the altar, yearning to speak its secrets. A sudden movement caught his eye. In the far corner, a shadow coalesced into a figure, tall and indistinct, watching him. James' heart hammered as the figure stepped closer, and the whispers grew into a crescendo, almost intelligible now. Words of betrayal, murder, and a cursed lineage spilled into his mind without sound. The figure stopped mere feet away, and the room fell into suffocating silence. James could feel a presence pressing against his very consciousness, probing, demanding. And then, just as he reached out toward the altar, the air around him seemed to solidify, freezing him in place. Was he about to witness the ultimate truth of Leap Castle? Or would the castle itself claim him as it had countless others? The weight of the air pressed down on James, constricting his chest, yet a strange compulsion drew his gaze to the altar. The red symbol pulsed as if alive, throbbing in rhythm with a heartbeat that wasn't his own. The whispers returned, now forming a single coherent voice, cold and ancient. Know what was taken, or be taken. Summoning every ounce of courage, James stepped closer, and the shadowed figure moved aside, revealing a spiral staircase carved into the altar itself. It descended into darkness deeper than any dungeon he had encountered. Trembling, he descended, each step echoing like a drumbeat in the stillness, until he reached a hidden chamber beneath the castle's foundations. There, he found what no legend had fully revealed, a tomb-like space lined with countless skeletal remains, some arranged in ceremonial patterns, others piled as if abandoned in haste. At the center lay a chest, its surface etched with the same crimson symbol, now glowing faintly. A shiver ran through him as he opened it, revealing a collection of diaries, artifacts, and letters, the confessions of a family consumed by power, paranoia, and bloodshed. Leap Castle was never merely haunted. It had been a crucible of cruelty, each generation leaving behind a trace of torment that seeped into the stones themselves. As James read, the whispers softened into a mournful chorus. He realized the castle's dark heart was not a ghost or demon, but memory itself, memory of betrayal, murder, and vengeance that had festered, shaping the very air. The figure watched silently, its presence less threatening now, more like a guardian of secrets too terrible to leave unrecorded. James emerged from the underground chamber as dawn broke, the mist lifting from the hills. Leap Castle stood silent once more, yet its shadows lingered in his mind. He understood now, some places do not merely tell stories, they keep them alive, waiting for someone to listen and remember.